Up. So, this is just going to be a race report, two parts to it because it takes too long. First part is just going to be about the marathon. It was a great race. I really enjoyed it. 3:02:19, so it wasn't sub 3, but I'm definitely happy with it. I'm not going to be upset with it because I'm going to go run Boston this year, and I'll work that out somehow during track season. But yeah, so I mean, when we got to the course, it's only a one road to the course, so it's completely backed up. So instead of going the short way, which was only about 2 miles, mile and a half, we went the long way, which we went around the 13-mile loop. That was the half marathon and most of the marathon course, the second half of the marathon course. So we went that way, and so I got to see the course right before I ran it, which was really good. So I could see where the mile markers were, and we got there. I had about 40 minutes, half an hour to warm up. Got a few strides in, drills, had a warm up run in, so I felt pretty good. I was standing at the front of the race, and I was in the first corral if they had one, but I was with the other, I guess, elite runners, and I didn't have a timing chip, so I freaked out and I sprinted back to where I got my bib from. I was like, oh my god, I don't have my timing chip. I don't have a timing chip. I need my timing chip. And they were like, oh, it's actually on the back of your bib. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh yeah, no, totally. And I had nothing to say to that girl at that point. And I was like, I'm gonna go. Like, it was really awkward. And so I got back to the front of the corral, and I tried talking to some of the other guys, and they seemed kind of douchey. Like, some guys had music in, and I'm like, which I hate on a race. Like, I get during some training runs, but yeah, for a race, I think it's just stupid. So yeah, so they really weren't talking to me. I found a few guys, but no one was really at the exact pace I wanted to go. And at the beginning of the marathon, everybody kind of sprints off, and I'm not a fan of that either, because obviously you have 26 miles, so when you take off super fast. So I made sure that my first mile I opened up in 7 minutes, because I was like, I can't rush it. I'm going to warm up into it and then go. So mile 3, I was running with two other guys, one in front of me, one behind me, and I was like, wow, we have a perfect day for this. And I said it out loud, obviously. And I mean, I saw the sunrise over the course. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. There was no wind, which was a big thing I was worried about, because it was really windy when I was there before. And like, it was just the perfect day to run, and because it was still cool out, and I really lucked out. So I said that, and I was complete silence, and nobody else said anything, and I was just like, wow, this is really awkward. These guys just don't want to talk to me. So I was kind of like, you know what, I don't want to run with these guys if this is how it's going to be. So I ran on. I eventually passed the guy, and then the guy behind me stayed with me, and we kind of worked together for a few miles. But my stomach started to get upset, and I just kind of put it off, and then mile 11 came, and I was like, I have to stop. I can't not stop. So with my luck, I probably stopped for about 2 minutes and 19 seconds. But yeah, after that kind of woke me up, and I was like, all right, I got to start running now. I actually have to put in work. So I didn't really want to make a break that early, because I mean, there was still over half of the course to go, and I was just like, well, I could pay for it later, but I need to catch my point. I need to keep going. So I must have been hauling, because it only took me about 3.5 miles to catch the people that I was running with, and it was the top female and this other guy, the guy that followed me. It only took about 3.5 miles to catch them. So I really was really going, and when I passed him, I was just like, I feel great. I need to keep going. And then, I mean, like, after I caught him, I started catching other runners, and I was picking up marathoners that I hadn't seen since the beginning of the race, and I mean, I stopped. So, and I caught them late. Like, I caught them from mile 17 on through till 21. So I felt really strong. I felt really good. And I mean, I've never passed anybody late in a race like that, especially a race like this. It's always me that's getting passed late. So I felt really good about it. And I just remember being like, wow, this is amazing. And then mile 20 came, and I was like, wow, already? Like, come on, it's only a 10K left. And then mile 22 is when I kind of woke up from the dream, and it became a fight. My right hamstring started to lock up a little bit, and so I kind of did like a Terry Fox limp thing, and then I kind of slapped my hamstring, trying to shake it out a little bit, like do anything to loosen it up, and it kind of worked, but I'm sure I look like an idiot doing that. And I mean, there's half marathoners along the whole course, obviously. Um, so I shook it out. My calves were starting to feel it too, but my feet were killing me at this point. I wore the Luna Racer. Not that it's a bad shoe. The Luna Racer is a great shoe, and Nike makes me a better athlete, and I suggest everybody should wear Nike because it is a fantastic company with a lot of values and morals. Anyways, it was just the fact that it was a flat, I think, and just after that much pounding. So I was hurting, and my mile 23 and 24, I was like, this should just be over by now. Why is this not over? And when I hit mile 25, I took my last goo, and I was like, okay, well, I have to just keep going. It's 5 laps away, and I remember passing the last turn, and there was a girl there, and she was like, yeah, it's 800 meters from the red tent. And it was about 200 meters from that red tent. So I was like, okay, there's a kilometer, so it's about 4 minutes of running. Okay, let's just finish this off. And I started to pick it up, and then the crowd started to build a little bit more. And because there hadn't been a lot of marathoners come through yet, they're all cheering for me. They're like, yeah, marathoner, 191, and this and that. And I started to do the Meb thing at the New York City Marathon, where he's pointing to his chest, said USA. Well, I was wearing the Western jersey, so I was doing the same thing. And I was feeling great at that point because with the crowd support, I really feed off of that because let's be honest, I'm a bit of an attention whore, and an only child. So, but yeah, so I was feeling great, and I remember passing these half marathoner girls, and then they started sprinting past me, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it kind of pissed me off a little. I was like, yeah, I said this. I was like, yeah, you would pass me after I sprinted 26 miles, and they kind of laughed and were like, well, just stay with us. And I picked up the pace, and I was just like, after about 10 meters, 15 meters, I was like, oh, I don't even know if I can hold this pace. And they're like, yeah, you can. Just don't think about it. He wants to tell you a joke. And I don't remember the first joke they told me, but the second joke was, where does a king keep his army? Up his sleevey. And I didn't get it at first because I was so tired. And after I got it, I was like, oh, that's really corny, but it's kind of funny. At that point, I don't even know how far we had gone, but I had forgotten about how much it hurt. And there was about 400 meters left, and then the crowd got huge, obviously, because everyone's at the finish. And I really started hauling in, and I actually outkicked them. And I came in through the finish, and I remember, that part in Saving Private Ryan at the beginning of the movie when Tom Hanks is kind of shell-shocked and everything's drowned out and everything's slow motion? And it was kind of like that. Like, I could hear the announcer say my name and like, oh, what a strong finish by a marathoner, it's amazing, and this and that. But it was drowned out. The crowd noise was drowned out, and it was kind of that moment where it's just by myself, and it's like, you just did that. Like, that was one of the greatest races that you've ever done, ever. So it was an amazing feeling. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about when you just have that kind of race. And I mean, I stopped even. So I felt great, and I just that moment was that was a special moment for me. I had to wait an hour and a half for the results to actually come out, and when I got the results, I found out that I finished 13th overall, second in my age group, and in a 3:02, I kind of got emotional because it was just like that hard work finally paid off. Like, everything that I've done for the last 2-3 months. After track season when everyone was not running or when everyone was partying, and I was like, well, I gotta go, I have a run tomorrow, I gotta do this, or, just all that time and effort is like, you see it, it's a great feeling. It's just super emotional. So, That's the end of